I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Bigfoot, America's Creek Devil. Theresa is joining us today. Forrest, would you like to kick this one off?
Sure. Theresa, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. How are y'all?
Theresa is from Alabama, and she had a very interesting encounter. And today, I think TW is with us, and David, and Milo, Chuck, and
Milo isn't here. Milo isn't here.
Oh, Milo's not here? Okay.
No.
Well, we have the elusive Milo missing. Welcome to the gang, dear. So let's hear about that encounter. I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay. This was, let's see, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 2014. I had already kind of been in the Bigfoot interest and stuff, and I had met somebody on one of the groups that I help manage for Bigfoot online on Facebook, and we had met, and I found out she lived very close to me, and we talked for quite a while to get to know each other well, and then one day she said, come over, and you can spend the weekend, and, we'll talk Bigfoot and maybe look around. I said, okay. So I did, and we had went to church and did that kind of thing on Sunday and stuff. But that afternoon, excuse my coughing. We on her area, she's got a lot of land. There are no neighbors. I preface all this saying that it kind of sets up the tone of where I am as far as, there not being other things causing what we're about to talk about that we see. But, there's no close neighbors. There's no foot traffic on the road. There is no car traffic on the road unless it's the sheriff, county deputy, whatever, law enforcement, and them. And usually that's it. And so we had just been sitting outside and talking and stuff, and about probably, anywhere from about 80 to 100 feet from her nearest tree line was off the side of the house. And she had told me, she has them there. They make themselves known. They'll whoop, they'll holler. And they've brought her things in the past, left them on her rocker, on her porch, things that just didn't get put there by her family or a dog or whatever. And like flowers and things, and flowers that were not normal to her yard, was not normal to anywhere down the road, and all that kind of stuff. Just weird, odd things happen. But so we were just standing in the yard, and it was getting, about 5 in the evening by then. It was still plenty light, and I said, well, let's do something that I think would really be fun for them. And she was that. I said, let's start singing. Let's see if we can bring them in. Maybe they'll come to hear the music. So we started that. And quite honestly, we sang for a long time. We're talking hours. We'd stop, take a break, and start back. But as it was starting to get dark, it was still enough light where I could see the trees and stuff. I was seeing things behind the trees that I hadn't noticed before. And when we would sing, I'd be looking, and whatever those shapes were that were there, they're kind of swaying back and forth. And we stopped singing one time, and I said, did you see that? And she said, see what? And I said, tall shape behind that tree, and I pointed to a tree, and then I said, something squatted down on the ground. You can see the head shape and the shoulder. am I just saying things, or is that just, the, scrub brush or whatever? And she looked, she said, no, I don't know. I don't think so. And so I said, well, when we sing, watch and see if you see what I'm seeing when they're swaying. So that's kind of what we did. And I kept noticing the one that was behind the tree, and I'm calling that that's them because I couldn't explain any other way. It wasn't a wild boar. It wasn't any of the wildcats that were in that area. It wasn't a coyote that was in that area, and they were too tall. I mean, there was one that it could have easily been close to 8 foot tall. I mean, it dwarfed me, and I'm just 5'6". And so anyway, when we would sing, it would lean out and then lean back in, lean out just a little bit and lean back in. And when we stopped singing, the swaying would stop. Well, when it started getting dark, then the eye shine kind of kicked in. And I was seeing like 6 pairs of eye shine at different heights, different levels, squatted down on the ground, standing straight, bent, stooped over, kind of just in all different heights. And I looked at her, I said, I think we've got something here. And she said, yeah, I believe so. So we sang for a little while longer, talked and laughed, cut up, and all kinds of stuff just to get their attention, to get them, get used to hearing us laugh and hearing us talk. And finally I said, well, I'm tired. It's getting dark. I mean, it's getting late. And I said, let's, go on the porch and sit down. And she said, okay. So we just walked back over to the house. It was just a little bit away, and went and sat down on the porch, still facing out toward the tree line. But I still wanted to see if I could see anything moving from the moonlight. That I never really did see any of that, but anything that's moving. But we sat and talked. We played on our phone. We, told jokes and all this kind of junk just to pass the time. And it was getting close to midnight, maybe a little after midnight by then. And I was thinking about going in and going to bed, or getting a bite to eat and going to bed. And was sitting on her porch, and I had my feet on her wood porch. Her porch got all around the house. It was a wraparound porch. And, of course, the flooring was wood. And I had my feet on the wood, and her feet was tucked up under her in her chair. And I felt 4 really heavy vibrational type, ma'am. Okay, I thought you were about to say something.
No, I think that's TW's radio.
Oh, okay. But I felt footfalls. It's the only thing that I could even say that it was until I turned the other direction toward where I would go back to go in the house, and I saw her husband in there in the kitchen through the door window. And I said, well, it's not them, not him. And I said, well, it's the 2 dogs. I had 2 big dogs. 2 big dogs were sitting at my feet, in her feet. I said, no, it's not them. And then, I felt the footfall, 4 of them, kind of one right after the other, that you could feel it vibrating through my feet. And I never got scared. Never did get frightened about any of it. But I thought, well, if he's behind me, and I said, if I had been smart, I was kind of not being very with it at the time. I could have taken my cell phone and put it on reverse camera and just held it up to me and saw behind me. Because it was directly behind me where that was where the footfalls were coming from, because the porch steps was right behind me, about maybe 15 feet away. And I didn't think to do that. It never occurred to me. And I wished I had, should have, could have, would have. But I just told her, I said, well, I think I'm going to go in. And just made a real slow effort to just get up, not do anything fast, and just made a little slight turn, did not turn around, look behind me, and went back into the house. And I thought, well, I think whatever that was, it was, I didn't see anybody. There was nobody on the road, and it wasn't her husband, and it wasn't the 2 dogs, and it wasn't her or I, so I didn't, it's like, well, that was odd. So I went on ahead and got ready for bed and ate a little bit with her husband, my leftovers from the dinner, and got ready to go. I was going to sleep in their living room, and because her Bigfoot had a tendency to sometimes jump up on the second floor roof and look through the windows, and I really wasn't too all enthused on that at that point in time. But anyway, so I said, well, I'll just sleep in the living room. And I already had a blanket and everything, was sitting down and getting ready, and cut the TV on and was just relaxing. And I heard my friend and her husband talking in the kitchen. She had come in for the night. And as I was kind of getting my feet up and getting settled, I heard a noise over to my left where a French doors were. And they had plantation shutters and French doors and everything. And I turned and I looked, and the sound, I'm kind of good with figuring out what sounds are, and it sounded like wood scraping on wood. Well, she had a screen door there in front of the French doors. I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. And then I saw the knob, and the knob was moving. And I went, okay, well, she's in there with her husband. They're talking. I hear them talking. I said, the dogs are not going to grab the doorknob or pull a screen door open. And so I thought, well, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go over and look. So I stood up and took a couple steps over to the door. And never in my life have I ever had anything like this happen. But the only thing I could even remotely say it was like some kind of zapping thing or something, because my head felt like it was about to pound off my shoulders. It hurt so bad, and I got really, really dizzy just at the blink of an eye, and was, trying to make sure that I wasn't going to fall. And it was hurting and hurting, and I just said in my head, stop, 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 stop. And immediately, just like, snapping your fingers, the pain went away. The residual effect of being dizzy was still there. But the pain went away, just like you turn the water faucet off. And so I was still going to go to the door, and my friend came through. And I said, you were not out here on this porch just a few minutes ago. Were you not? She said, no, I've been in the kitchen. I said, okay. I said, so I heard a noise, and it sounded like your screen door had opened. We need to check and see what's going on. She said, okay. So she went over and unlocked the door and opened it up, and the screen door had been opened. And you have to push it in to make it catch, or you have to pull it hard to open it. So that's what I had heard. And so I said, it's not the dogs, right? And she said, oh no. She said, right before I came in, they were looking on this side of the house that I was on. Had got up and went around the corner of the porch and looked down on that side, and just took off running and got under the house. And I said, well, why do they do that? Because they're familiar with the Bigfoot people and, have seen them before. She said, well, they do that sometimes when something scares them, or, they're startled. I said, okay. So I told her what had happened, and we talked about it for a little bit. And she said, you going to be okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. So we set everything down, locked everything down. And I just went on and laid there. And I essentially laid there all night. I never went to sleep. I kept thinking, I want to go out there and look. I want to go out there. But, I thought, no. And at some point, like 3:30 or so in the morning, I heard that door, the screen door, pop open again, being pulled open. I didn't get up and I said, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere, and I didn't say nothing else. And I never saw anything since then or heard anything after that. But when it got daylight, I got up and I went out and checked. And yes, I went from the other way to go out in the kitchen and came around and looked, and the screen door had been pulled. And it takes effort to pull that screen door or to push it to close it. So something had opened it. I don't know. But just having those little bit of things that I saw, I really felt like that was them behind the trees, hiding and singing out and kind of looking and then, going back in, and the eye shine. 6 pairs of them, and they were all different heights and stuff. So, and you could see when they blink, and you know, and the eye shine was white and yellow. They didn't change much. They really didn't change color. Didn't ever turn like red or anything or orange. It was just a white and a light yellow color. So it was something that was there, you know. And I'm calling it that it was some kind of Bigfoot thing going on there. But you know, I have that's the closest I had been to actually seeing one that close up enough to me. My only other incident was in Oklahoma, and had some weird stuff happen at other places, but we could always find a way to explain it one way or another, or see footprints. So I've seen a footprint and had one cast at one time, but it was so poorly degraded that it really didn't show much of anything. You just had a basic shape, and you had some toe shapes. That was it. But but that was for here in Alabama. That's about the only time that I've really had something of that nature happen in this state. Now in Oklahoma was a totally different matter altogether. I had done fully got inducted into just, you know, finding out about these creatures and people, forest people, whatever you want to call them. They're more than a creature, but to me, I mean, they have ways about them that are, you know, family units and everything else, very protective and all that kind of stuff. But a friend of mine and her husband, they lived in New Mexico, and we've talked a lot online and met each other online in the group that I helped admin for. I pulled her in to help me be admin for it, and we did it for a few years together till she left. But you know, we just got to be really close. And one day we just said, I'd been talking to someone that had been to Oklahoma and southeastern.
Please continue to hold.
Not sure what that was.
Yeah.
Somebody's holding.
Okay. So we're still good, right?
Where's that coming from?
I know we heard it before, too.
Was that TW?
No.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, my goodness gracious. But are you ready for me to go on?
Yeah.
So, keep going?
Miss
Okay.
Theresa?
Yeah.
I got, you know, when we talked and everything, you know, the thing that really stuck out to us is probably what you're fixing to tell us about the windshield. So,
Yes.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes, that's the Oklahoma story.
Okay.
That's part of that. Yeah.
You know what, Theresa, before we get going on that, let me ask you one question, because that was something that was sticking out in my mind here. When you said you saw eye shine, was there ambient light, like a moon or a pole light or something like that around that they were picking up the eye shine from?
Well, I mean, the moon was out, but I don't really remember it being like a full moon or anything. I don't remember if it was a crescent moon or what, but we had enough ambient light from the moon to be able to see to the tree line.
Okay.
It wasn't fully pitch black. There was enough moonlight to at least see where I could see the tree line when we were standing out there. It was plenty enough light to see. But you know, then later on.
Were all these?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said they were. Oh no, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. The individuals were swaying. Were all the individuals swaying, or just one or two, maybe?
Yeah, just a couple of them. The big one, I'm calling in my head the big guy, the big tall one that was like probably close to 8 foot. He would swing out and look, and I mean he'd be like behind the tree and he's swinging right, just a little bit, and then going back in. And the other shorter ones on either side of him, there were a couple of those that swung, but the one that was squatted down on the ground, there was a couple of those squatted on the ground. I think might have been young juveniles, I don't know, but they just sat there. I mean, they just, kind of like creepy crawlers. They were kind of almost on hands and knees all the way down, just peeking and looking. But yeah, I mean, but as it got darker, it was harder to see their shape. But I knew they were there because of the eye shine. And I could see when they blinked. Yes, sir.
Theresa, was all the eye shine the same color? Could you tell?
Well, like I said, some was white and some was yellow.
Okay.
Like a light, soft yellow.
No red or anything?
No red. No. We didn't have none of that extra, like orangey or red colors at all, no.
Okay.
Yeah. But going to Oklahoma, they brought their travel trailer, and so we were at a place in Hanabi that had a place where we could camp and have access to water and all that stuff. And it crashed 40 acres, and that's where we had set up camp at. And there was nobody there but us that was camping. There was a camper there, but there was nobody in it during the time we were there. No other vehicles, no bikes, no nothing, no trucks, no nothing, other than the two that were there to kind of help show us around. Because Melba Ketchum was the one I had spoke to about this place. And she said, yeah, this is who you contact if you want to go to a place that is known to have them, and they'll help you get an experience with them. Then, you talk to these people, and that's who I got in contact with. And so we had all that set up. We were going to be there for 4 days. We ended up being there for 3 because there was some kind of squall coming in that weather was going to be really, 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 really bad. And we were already kind of bogged down in mud anyway, so we ended up having to break camp a day early. But our first 24 hours was really not a whole lot of anything. We were just kind of getting to know each other during that time, and we rode around and looked around. I walked around by myself a few times, and they went and walked around themselves a few times. And we'd come back and talk about whatever. Had little things like finding a long clump of hair on a barbed wire where there was a horse back in a corral in the back, and there's barbed wire around it, and barbed wire, I can't talk, around it. And they had found a big clump of like almost cinnamon colored hair, long hair, but it wasn't the horse's. It was downy and it was soft. It was a softer hair. It's kind of coarse, but still it had a downy feel to it. And so we just kind of, okay, well, we'll put that in a Ziploc bag and think about it later. And then I saw some stuff like what I wouldn't have known how it would have happened like that unless it had been manually manipulated, but some kind of like a wild vine, but it was really, 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 really thick. It was probably as thick as a baseball bat at the lower part of the bat on the handle part. And it had been twisted and twisted and twisted and twisted on itself and then made into a figure 8. And it was hanging in the trees right off from where I was walking and looking, right over a water source, a little creek. And I sat and looked at that for a little while. I couldn't figure out how that happened, so I just come took a picture and went on about my way. And had a couple of times getting on 4-wheelers and being taken out into the woods. Didn't have anything, nothing happened, no sounds, no nothing. You could hear the crickets chirping, and it never got really quiet when we were with the guides out there. And so it was just, it was fun to be out in that element and just sit and talk and laugh and cut up or whatever. And but as we were going along, the next day, that was like day 2. Then day 3 was we had done a lot of exploring all over the whole area. I love that area down there. And But we had went off for a little while and had come back. It wasn't even dark yet. It was about 5 o'clock in the evening. And we were, I personally had to go to the little girl's room, and I had to go bad. So I was running in to go, and Ed said, but I got to go too. But I'll just go over here by the tree. Okay. Well, I'm in the thing and had the door closed. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this big booming male voice screams, hollers, yells, and he starts it, but then right behind him starting it was a bunch of, you could tell were females and juveniles because of the pitch and tone of their voices were much, much higher or not matured. Came right with him, joined in with the yell, and they all were yelling together. Well, by that time, I'm not going to snap the pants up and then gone out the door. I thought they were right outside the trailer, the cover trailer. They were it sounded that close. But it had reverberated from in that bathroom, which is just, one big thing, metal with a skylight. So, but coming out the door, it was loud. It was loud. I thought, oh my God, they done killed my friend. They done killed my friend. They're out there. They're beating him up. What's happening? And he was there, and his wife was there, my friend Pat. And we were just looking at each other. And we're still hearing the yelling is still going on. I mean, it's like 20 seconds or so. It happens really fast, but it was still like forever, and hearing the scream to where we could locate where it was coming from the direction, but you saw nothing. It's like they were right there in front of you, in your face, but you couldn't see them. And the only thing I could figure is there was a little knoll that was kind of, 30 feet or so behind where the trailer was. There was a little street, little side country road, and then a knoll just beyond that. And I think that's where they were coming from because there was trees all through there too. And that's what we kind of figured that it had to been coming from because that's where the direction of the sound was coming from. And it reverberated. It was so strong that, your whole body just shook. Like everything in you was quivering. I wasn't scared. I was elated. I was like, oh yeah, man, this is cool. It didn't scare me. And they felt the same way. They felt that vibrating in the chest and in the body. But we were just, we were looking and there was just nothing there to see. You just hearing it. And so I'm like, when it quit, it did not just cut off like cutting a faucet off. It dwindled. It kind of decrescendoed, like in music. When you get kind of loud and you want to get softer until it just kind of peters out. That was basically what happened. And so we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Y'all do that again!" I was wanting them to do it again. But I don't know if they were upset that he had went outside to pee or what. I don't know. But that was when the yelling started. And so we were told that we had to go ahead and pack up and leave in the morning, a couple of hours after that. So we just got everything ready and went to bed pretty early. And every night when I was sleeping there on their sold-out kind of a couch thing, there were windows. It had curtains and blinds and stuff, but I would open the curtain and open the blind because that area we were in, we were told is where a lot of the juveniles would play at night, late at night, running around in between the trees and stuff. And I thought, well, that's cool. If y'all want to look in the window, I'm right here. It's not going to scare me. It doesn't bother me. And I don't know if they ever did, but, I slept fine. It didn't bother me. But the color of that hair that they had found that last night that we were there, I had backed up my car to give some light. I think we were going to do at one time. I think we were going to do a campfire, but we ended up doing the campfire. But I had moved my car out and around so the headlights could show where the fire pit thing was because I couldn't see it in the dark. And my friend said when I did that, two little small ones ran right in my light, in my headlight light. But I was concentrating on where I was trying to point at, that I didn't see that movement in that rim running. But she said, that's the same color hair as what we got off of the barbed wire. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So it could have been confirmation on that. I don't know, but I kept it just because I wanted to keep it. They gifted it to me. I did not know they had put it in my bag. And I got home and they called, have you unpacked yet? Have you unpacked yet? And I said, no, why do you keep asking me why am I unpacked? And something told me, go look in your bag. And they had put that hair in there in a Ziploc bag. But anyway, so we had, went to sleep that night, had to get up really early. It was about 6 o'clock, right at, with the sun coming up. And I had got my stuff and was sticking it out the door and dropping it down on the ground. And then I could get down to my car. I had a little blue Mustang, a little grabber blue Mustang. And it was parked up under where they sleep in their bedroom, and their window was open. And, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I had gotten in and had backed up and had backed my car, the back end of my car right there at the steps. And Ed said, Theresa. I said, yes, sir. He said, have you touched the back end of your car on the window? I said, no, sir. I just got in the car and backed up. He said, you got to come here. And I got out and I went and looked, and there was a handprint as big as you please on my back window. 4 fingers in a thumb, just fully all pressed on that window. And apparently had not been very, very long. It could have been while I was throwing stuff out from the door onto the ground, because the dew hadn't even started to drip yet from him removing the hand. And, specifically 4 fingers in a thumb. And they were kind of, not close together, but close enough to get, still had some space in between and just relax. Just like, oh, I'm just propping my hand right here. And so we took a lot of pictures and called the 2 guys over that had been with us during some of that time. And they were just flabbergasted, absolutely flabbergasted. They had not seen a handprint like that before. We measured at 9.5 inches wide and 13.5 inches long, from palm to tip of middle finger, and then from thumb to the side of the hand, near the pinky. So it was a big hand. And they're toward, we had to get ready to get going, but it took a lot to really get up close enough. But on what I was calling the index finger, which is what I could see tiny little whorls, like we all have fingerprint whorls, and I could see just a little tiny bit of them. I get my glasses off and get right up on it, and I could see it fine. And but I had to go. And so I just took as many pictures as I could, and we had to hightail on out. But, I was flying high. I had a 10-hour drive back home, and I flew high the whole time. I even stopped in Arkansas and got out to look and see if the handprint was still there, and it was still there. It was getting faded, but it was still there. You could see where the fingers were. But that was the handprint. And that was about it. I think I think I told the same thing about the handprint. Or it might have been Doris I told, but the handprint on my house here. That, I don't know what it would have been. It would have had to been a human with a very, very long fingers and wide hand. But the whole hand didn't make contact with the masonite on the side of the house where it hit. Right there by the living room window where I was sitting at 1 o'clock in the morning watching TV. And my mom was in rehab. She had fell and broke her femur and it crushed it. So she was in rehab. I was there by myself. And something hit the side of my house. This was in 2018. And I still don't know today what that was. But the hand was huge, but the fingers were much longer. And it didn't make, like I said, full contact with the masonite. So I had long fingers, and I had the fingertip, and I had a part of the long part of the finger, but there would be a gap in between, like the finger didn't go all the way down, press up against masonite. So, but I got palm, I got 4 fingers and a thumb, just like I did with the other one, but it was just a much different print. It wasn't beefy and fat like that one was in Oklahoma. But anyway, I don't know what that was. I'm not calling that anything but just weird. But sometimes I think they leave little stick lifts on my walkway where I have, for years now, have been having to either use a walker or use a rollator or use a wheelchair at some point during the recovery period. And they knew that's where I was, and they would leave little things that I don't know where they come from. So I don't know if that was at them or not. That, anyway. But I mean, that's the short end of mine. It's not really a whole lot of exciting stuff, but it was exciting for me at the time, especially with the handprint. And the yells. That really just, it rocked my world, because there was nothing else out there. And we thought, okay, somebody's tricking us. They had a big sound system put up in a tree somewhere, a big speaker, and they're playing this to see what we do. But we even went over that area and looked on trees and on things where anything could have been strapped on, have been a speaker or anything up on that hill. And we never did see anything. So, I don't know. But it's exciting. I would like to do more. I would like to go back to Hanabi at some point. But, I can't do it right now, but because other things have been going on. But, and I think we got enough Bigfoot things going on around here in Alabama that I could probably be okay with
Theresa?
staying right here. But, yeah.
It's Chuck again. Hey, I was just wondering, I remember you telling me a story about the house being slapped. Now, is there sightings and encounters in your neck of the woods there?
I have not heard anybody talk of it. Not here. Back in the late 80s, we had a hunting lodge in this county. And, of course, small enough town, you're going to know somebody that goes to the hunting lodge. I knew the lady that cooked for the hunting lodge, and she heard them talking about having a Bigfoot experience in the woods there where the lodge is. And the guy wouldn't come down out of his deer stand. Nah, he wouldn't come out of it. They couldn't get him to come out of it. And eventually they did, but I mean, at that time he was too scared, and he didn't really want to talk about it much. But they got enough out of him to know what was going on. But then again, that was sometime in the early 80s. But people don't talk about it around here. If they do, I don't usually hear about it.
Theresa, this is TW. You have no idea how grateful I am when you brought up the subject of turning your headlights on and the hair, because I was almost halfway expecting you to say that the hair was translucent and turning purple. You have no idea how grateful I am you didn't do that.
Yeah, no. I mean, good Lord had given me some sense, and no. I just speak whatever I know and what I saw and what my friends that I trust saw, and I just gotta take it at face value, whatever, I don't know, but I didn't see none of that strange stuff, no. But it just but it was fascinating. It was a wonderful trip. I loved it. I would love to do it again. But being a nurse, I was a nurse for 28 years. To kind of, in some ways, a lot of the same thing. You have to question a lot of things. You have to investigate a lot of things. You have to rule things out. You know, you can you kind of just use that same methodology with Bigfoot in the same way. I mean, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's duck. But do what now?
No, I think he was on his radio again, or somebody was
Oh,
calling.
okay. Okay. All right. But
Yeah, he's on duty, so you get some of that in there.
Oh,
yeah, you get commentary in the background.
Okay. But,
Well,
you know, I mean, I look forward to having more experiences. Huh?
Can I ask you, your friend's house that she had the one come up on the porch? How far is that from your house?
About an hour and a half.
Okay.
In travel time. Yeah, it's about 75 miles.
That really disturbs me that it actually tried the door. Had she ever had that happen before?
Yes, and they had get up on her. She is a 2-story house. They get up on her roof and peered in through her bedroom window before too. She's seen that.
Hmm.
But
they had
you know,
in the door before.
But you know, and I mean, it's just she's had a lot of high strangeness going on. You know, being the way her house is built, kind of like a plantation house in a way. I mean, that roof is pretty steep, but not, I guess, steep enough to make something slide off like that. But you know, I mean, I don't know, but they're so used to her. I mean, they have known her for however many years they've been living there. They built the house on that property, and also they were used to her. And I guess they just kind of, when they get that used to you, and they're used to the dogs, and they're used to the husband, and he's out there working in the yard 24/7 all the time, you know, they got used to it.
Theresa.
And but she, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sweetie.
That's okay.
You said that they're so used to her. Has she ever said anything about them ever being aggressive towards her or her animals or anything?
No, we had discussed that early on. No, the yell that she had gotten recorded from her bedroom window, it got analyzed by someone she knows up in Washington. I know his first name's David, and I can't think of his last name right now. But he has all that equipment and all the sounds from different animals all over the world, and he identified it straight on as being a Bigfoot yell. And I just, you know, and we had, it was at her place where we found one of the footprints. It was pretty degraded, but you could still tell that it was a footprint. I could tell that it was a right foot. I could see the toes, but you know, beyond that, there was no, you know, metatarsal break. There was some narrowing at the heel a little bit, but you know, everything else had kind of broke down. So I just really couldn't see a whole much out of that. But they've never caused her a problem. She does not share her pictures at all, but she has got pictures of them with a camera on her porch. I mean, it's pretty wild. It really, one was white, solid white. And then one of the others was a dark color. And he was kind of out there by where she had this little chicken coop looking thing out there that they don't have chickens anymore. And it was at that. And it took her camera, that kind of camera she had on her wraparound porch, saw the movement and took the picture. And it was pretty definitive too. I mean, it was, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of guessing. Yeah, you know, there's nothing left to the imagination really. But anyway, so yeah.
Now, Theresa, you said something about that you had talked to Melba Ketchum. At what point in time did you talk to her?
Oh, this is back right before going to Oklahoma in 2016.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it was like 2015 because we went in March of 2016. And we had been working on making a plan for doing that back in the fall of 2015. And I kind of just touched base with her time and again a couple times, and just to be sure, everything, what her experience was and everything compared to, when we got back from it. I told her a little bit, I think I did, told her a little bit of what we had going on. But, but she had experiences when she was there with them. But we didn't have our experiences with them. They were not with us when we had all our stuff going on. So I found that kind of odd, But just that I don't know if the Bigfoot people had decided, hey, these people are okay. I don't know. But I feel like we got more activity on our own anyway. And that was fine with me. But yeah, I'm all for it. I love it. It's fun. As a matter of fact, they had a group of people. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you how the topography and the trees and such around your friend's house. What are they? Hardwoods, pines? What type?
A mixture. A mixture of everything. Yes.
And is this a hilly area or a flat area or what?
Well, currently, just like the way things are, right, that's a lot of things had been decimated. Some people in that area had sold off their timber, so things had got kind of, flattened. But normally, it's a little hilly in places. There are caves in those areas around over there, so, but yeah, I think they have enough there in that area. They have a greater food source because they have the wild boars. When the wild boars are coming out into rows in the yard, digging and everything, you go out there with a little rifle and start shooting them off, a little bit. But, they had the coyotes, they had the wild boar, they had the wild turkey, they had all kinds of food source out there. They have a fresh water source too. And they do have caves there, if caves are needed. So I think they got a perfect place to be. A lot of times there will be times when she doesn't have any activity whatsoever during hot months. And then it'll pick up a little bit when it gets cooler. But I think they're still there. They're just not making themselves known. Or they may be going a little bit of ways away and coming back. But
I think it was interesting, if you guys remember, when we talked to T, his encounters were in Alabama right about that same time frame. I'm wondering how close that is, Forrest.
Well, that's what I was going to ask her exactly. Is that in the northwest or the northeast, or where is it located in the state?
Yeah, you're going a little west northwest.
And that's where Cheese was too, wasn't it? Well,
I think so. I'll have to double check that.
Because you should put both of them in touch with each other.
You what now?
I was saying Will should put you and T in touch with each other. Y'all can exchange notes.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. That would be awesome. I wouldn't mind that at all. I love talking to people that have experiences, especially in my own state. That makes it a lot of fun.
Well, he was
surprised
with his experience. I mean, It was up close and personal.
Oh my word. Oh my word. Well, I don't know how I would feel about that close and personal. I got close enough it coming behind me on those steps. That's close enough for me. But there's people out there that feel like they have a kind of a one-on-one, I don't want to say relationship, but I mean just like they can understand the reason why they do what they do, and I don't really get that, but that's just me. I mean, I don't know. I don't hear mine speak. I don't believe that's part of my personal makeup of things. I don't think I have that gift. But if I did, that'd be great. But anyway, I was told by someone that said that when I told them that story about him coming up and then, behind me on the steps and then coming around on the backside and trying to open that door, that he saw me as a mother figure. And I went, say, what? But I mean, he was saying, yeah, I think he was a juvenile and he saw you as a mother figure. Well, he got a mama. You can go find his mama. But, yeah, anyway, it just, I don't know. I mean, they apparently felt comfortable enough. What would have happened if he had opened that door? That door had not been locked, and he had opened that door. I think Theresa would have probably fell out and had a heart attack, died. I mean, just to come and walk in and look. Yeah, I don't know how I would react. I really don't. It would be shocking. So I'm kind of glad.
I've had that being down there as well.
Oh my word.
Shaking or trying to turn the door handle of the door of the cabin, and that's happened to me several times while I was down there. I love that area down there because they're very active down there, but they're really docile. They're not as aggressive as some of the other stories that we get.
Yeah.
No report. I make that misreported.
Oh
well. All I have to say about that is that I wouldn't take a chance with any of them, because I think
I wouldn't want to either.
I think they can turn just as fast as they can be one way, and they can do a 360 and be another way. So I would find it. Now, Chuck, where she was having the doorknobs turned was actually in Alabama. It wasn't in Oklahoma. Now, Chuck's actually occurred in Oklahoma. So, and then I've had that instance in Texas, and my experience was not quite as enjoyable, you might say. But anyway, I'd be a little disturbed, wouldn't you, Will, if they're attempting to get in the house?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't. Well, it's kind of like that story about the Hanabi Seas. Those were, I feel like, aggressive. They were stealing, taking food out of a freezer, and then coming up on the porch and trying to like break down the door and all that kind of stuff. From what I read of that story long years ago, and I wouldn't want to be. No.
I actually interviewed that guy, and
I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I interviewed that guy, and it was not a good situation.
No, From what I read, I was scared for him. I don't think I would have stayed there, any length of time. And
the situation with primates, and this is I've seen this occur with baboons and in Africa, and then chimpanzees. They start finding a food source that's easy to accommodate them and their troop, and then when the humans step in and tell them, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to decimate my crops. You're not going to kill my livestock. You're not going to do this. Feral chimps, feral monkeys, they have this problem in India too with the macaques and the other monkeys out there. And the baboons are horrible in Africa and South Africa for doing the same thing. And everything's fine and dandy as long as you let them do it. But when you tell them no, they can't do it, then it's all of a sudden you see the bad side of, you see the bad primate come out. And it's not always a nice situation. And usually it doesn't end up nice. Somebody's going to get killed in the process. And sometimes it's the humans, but more often than not, it's the monkeys, the chimps, the baboons, or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad
it's a lot larger.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad so far I have not had any kind of negative experience with them. I think that, it might kind of change me a little bit and wanting to get out and about, but I can only say that I have felt like they were around me sometimes when I would be somewhere, and I have no way of explaining or saying how I know or how I feel or why do I feel it. What is about it that is giving me this feeling? But it's like, it's just weird. It's like you ran into a spider web and it's just all over, and you just feel it all over your body. And you didn't run into no spider web, but it was I just felt like something was just all over me watching. And it could have been anything. I don't know. But
I think that's your sixth sense kicking in. Don't you, Will?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, we're running short on time.
I think we all have that primal.
Oh, go ahead.
Primal sixth sense.
We're running.
No, I was just saying, I think we all have that primal sixth sense. We just don't listen to it all the time.
Yeah, that's very true. I think most people ignore it, Well, we're running a little short of time. Anybody have any final thoughts, comments, questions, or?
So just be careful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And thanks for coming on and telling your story. It's
sure.
awesome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Forrest?
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed it. And, I was just going to say, we thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was very interesting. Just please be careful. If you go out in the woods, Theresa, please take somebody. Make sure you're always accompanied by somebody else. Don't go out there by yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
No, I don't go by myself. I don't, because I had those 2 strokes, and I don't do that. I barely drive by myself. I still drive, but I don't do any of that. I don't even go up to, what our little camps up here about 5 or 6 miles down my road. And I don't even go there by myself. And it's really squatchy up there. That kind of borderlines Talladega National Forest. It kind of abuts up to it. And they've had some experiences in Talladega National Forest that I'd read about. So, but I don't even go up there by myself. I won't do it. It's too big of a problem, that something could happen. So,
Theresa, it's been
I take care of myself. I try to.
That's
anyway.
good. Theresa, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thank you, Noah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out